Anyone else in the classroom? Okay, go ahead.
Here, this guy, he is ignoring, he don't want to hear, or he stopped the people who's coming and bring the word is not correct.
Okay.
And in the surah also, we are not different, white or black, or about food or about culture. It's all the same. In the end, we are the same human beings, and the same from the God who's created that. And also the things that's coming sometimes from the hearing or from the newspaper or printing, from the picture you see, and you should not be allowed to spread that by social media or talking about that things.
Okay, very good. You brought social media. Jazakallah. Very nice, sister. Anyone else?
Okay, for me, I'm Basma.
Okay.
I told you I cannot use a magazine, just I'm drawing.
So you draw, okay.
Okay. That for 2 آية إذا جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. And the other آية يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم. This one for a falsifon that they create a fake news, and I mentioned it like a snake, like the bad news, and they thought that engaged or they're dating, but this is her husband, but just they thought that it's she is dating the strange man or something like this.
So
it's
spreading rumors. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Jazakallah, sister. You're good at drawing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Anybody else? Or can we go to the people online? Okay, one more and then we'll go to the people. We'll give people online a chance.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, sister.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Yes, my name is Marwa. Okay, I have 4 ayat, okay, but two of them all tell about this, okay, and I will tell about this one. No one tell about it. It's Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَلَا تَتَجَسَّسُوا. Here I put this door and it's just open, and someone here behind this door to listen what happened inside.
Okay.
Yes, okay. And all of this, I think this is because of my friend.
Yeah, that's a lot of meat.
That's a lot of meat. Yeah.
It is new, okay?
Okay, Jazakallah.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay.
So
Online.
let's
people?
go to online. Does anyone from online want to turn on their cameras and share, inshallah, what they were able to create, or provide some explanation as to what they took from the surah, what they thought was the most important lesson?
Huda, I think, or Saad.
Yes, yeah, I was in group with Huda and Najla, and I tried, and also my daughter was a group with me to help me do something, but we didn't, but it was we choose the ayah, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم نبأ. We picked talking about the bad effects of spreading rumors, which creates unhealthy relationships between Muslim communities and which could lead to have like a weak community, and how it's when we hear something without make sure if it's right or not, and then spread to other people, how it's affect on the person also in the and how this person will act and with the others, and then will be have like a big effect on the community all.
Yes, Jazakallah, sister. Very good. Very good.
I don't know if maybe one of my colleagues want to add something or not.
Yeah, inshallah. Very good. Who is the next person online who wants to go? I saw somebody's picture. I saw their camera. I don't know what happened to them.
Okay, nobody does. You want to just start your
Okay. So then I will be going on to the rubric just to help you guys kind of understand what needs to be done in terms of grading a class like this. Okay. So alhamdulillah, I hope everyone enjoyed and had fun in terms of
presenter.
the lesson itself. So let me put this on full screen. Okay, and let me just check quickly. Sisters, are you all with me?
Inshallah.
Inshallah, okay. You guys can hear me? The people in the classroom, can you turn your camera back on, please? In the mosque, the sisters in the mosque? Okay, Jazakallah. And if you can lower the camera a little bit. It was great how I saw you guys before. Okay, Jazakallah. Okay, so I have just some of the times when we teach something like, you know, it has a lesson and then it has an element of art. Sometimes people think that this is something that can't really be graded. Okay, like we can't really give the students a mark for this. So I wanted to share with you how we can actually grade the students, and especially when it comes to the high school level, middle school, high school, what they do, the work that they do has to be assessed in some way. Okay, what does assess mean? It means that we have to kind of figure out if they took something away from the lesson. Okay, what did they gain from that lesson? So usually the way that we used to assess people in the, you know, in the old days, I'm gonna say old days, or in the classical way of teaching, is that we would give them a test, right? We would just, you know, put a bunch of questions on a test, if it's multiple choice, if it's short answer, true and false, any of these things. And then we give the test to the students. We say, you have 15 minutes, you have half an hour, finish this test, okay? Then we take it back, we put an X and we say, this is wrong, this is right. We put a check where something's right, and then we give the student a mark. So now in Canada, in our educational system, we are trying, the ministry is trying to move away from this, okay? They are trying to find ways to assess students that are more fair to them, okay? Because when we used to just test students, it was just to see what they memorized. It didn't really tell us whether, you know, they understood sometimes. It didn't really tell us whether they got something from this lesson that they could apply to their life. It didn't tell us any of this information. It just told us who was able to memorize, who was paying attention in the lesson most of the times. These are the two things that we would learn, okay? So here I'm going to show you for this collage, we have categories, okay? And we're marking out of 1 to 4, okay? So 1 means that the person did the least work. Maybe they didn't, you know, create a picture. Maybe they didn't provide an explanation, okay, for why they chose a particular image. So that person would get a 1, okay? That's the lowest end. Or, well, in the case of not doing it at all, obviously you would get a 0. It wouldn't even be on this rubric, okay? But even in saying that, when I taught this class to my students, to my high school students, I gave lots of opportunity. So even though we had this activity in class for that day, I gave the students who, some of them were slower at cutting, some students took a while to think of their idea, right? So I gave them a chance to go home and continue working and come back the next day, okay? So we have to remember as teachers that we're not trying to put our students in a situation where they can't get the task done. okay? We should always be looking for ways to make sure that our students can complete the task. And if it means that we extend the time, if it means sometimes, you know, in the years I was teaching, if my class was before lunch, I sometimes gave students, you know, a chance to use 15 minutes of their lunch to do extra work, okay? So we have to be flexible. We have to find ways to ensure that our students do the best job that they can with our assistance, okay? Of course, we're not trying to, you know, give somebody who did no work or who isn't even trying, you know, marks, even though they didn't try. But we are trying to give students who maybe there's a little bit of a challenge for them. Things are a little bit harder. They have to think longer. We give them an opportunity to do the work and come back. And mashallah, I can say because I gave some students the opportunity to go home and come back, what they came back with was, mashallah, beautiful, okay? Because they just needed time to think and to get the work done, inshallah. So we're marking the students based on design, okay? So when we say design, is their design unique? Is their design, you know, something that we can tell they took time to think about and they didn't just take the easiest thing and throw it on the paper, okay? Did they think, did they process, did they make sure that whatever they chose, the image they chose reflects the idea, okay? Then creativity, okay? So for example, I'll use an example from the sisters who presented to us. It was very creative for the sister, I can't remember your name right now, the sister who, you know, put the image of the person with the meat, right? She just had flyers, probably from grocery store flyers. So she took the meat because it involved, in the surah, we talk about backbiting, we talk about eating your brother or sister's meat, okay, flesh. So she took the meat, the picture of the meat, and she put it by the person's mouth and she sort of worked with what she had, okay? So that was creative, okay? So then we have attention to theme. So in this case, in the theme was for you to choose an ayah, choose an idea, a lesson from the surah, and to reflect it in your image, okay? So did you pay attention closely to the theme that you were presenting? Did your image align with the idea that you were presenting, okay? So that's what you would be being marked on here. And then number of items. So for example, I did have, when I taught the class last time, some students who went and cut out a whole picture of something and just glued it on the paper, okay? So can this person get the same mark as somebody who took their time and created multiple images or created, you know, different layers to their image, glued many things together? No, this person cannot get the same mark, okay? As a person who put more effort and had more number of items, okay? And then finally, as a teacher, you get to judge the time and effort that you think a student put into the project, okay? So there's always a part of the assessment that is left to your judgment as a teacher, okay? You are making a judgment. Do you think that this person put a lot of time? Do you think this person really didn't care, just went home and cut one thing and stuck it on the paper, okay? So then you would decide whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4. 4 is the highest mark, meaning that the person, see, it says here, used class time wisely, put in much time and effort went into the planning and design of the collage. It is clear the student worked at home as well as at school, okay? So all of these categories are what we're judging to decide who gets a 4. And a 4 is an A, okay? That's A plus, okay? And a 3 is like a B plus to like a B minus, okay? And then we have 2, which would be like a C plus to C minus, and then 1 is basically like a D, okay? So this gives you an idea of how you are marking this collage, okay? And just to give you all a tip as teachers, not because you're teaching Arabic, Islamic studies, means that you can't go online and find rubrics, and there are rubric makers as well, okay? So there are rubric makers online that will help you to put in your own information, to put in the topic that you are grading, the subject that you are grading the student on, okay? So I recommend that you all do your best to try to use rubrics from now on in any way that you can, okay? Not everything requires a rubric, right? Some things you're assessing in different ways, so it may not require a rubric, but try to implement rubrics where you can, inshallah. Okay, I believe, Sister Nargis, this is when we go to the break because they have to make salawat.
Yeah, so all of you, just for the sake of time, we are going to go 10 to 15 minutes over 3 o'clock just to make up for what we lost in the beginning when you were setting up. So you could do 5-minute, if you can do 5-minute break right now for Salah and come back, then we can continue with the presentation and the case study, inshallah. Is that okay with everyone?
Inshallah.
All right, 5 minutes means we are at 2:34, so let's make it 2:40. That gives you 6 minutes, inshallah. We'll see you at 2:40. Thank you.
Inshallah.
So.
Okay.
The classroom, if you want to turn on your video, please, so we know you're back. Thank you.
Excuse me, just there's some ladies, they go to pray.
Oh, they're still praying?
Yes.
Oh, it's not allowing me to escape. Hold on 1 second. Let me just stop sharing and open my screen. Where does it?
اكبري ماما قريب نكمله هيا.
بس على خاطر انا ما ساعدتكش.
مش هيك اتلخبطت فاتس اوكي اللي ما انت
So we have what, 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes maximum?
Yeah, so I don't know what to do if a lot of the sisters are still praying.
Please let us know in classroom in the mosque if you are ready. We do need to get started.
But is the classroom in the mosque still here? I don't even see them in the, I don't
They're
see
here.
them.
I see them. I'm just going to spotlight them so you can see them.
Oh, okay.
But there's only like 2 people there.
Oh, okay.
I'm just wondering, you've got 10 people on, that means 4 people are not on. So if you keep this on, we could start and they can catch up if we're running late.
1, 3, 4.
Yeah.
We are 4.
We are 4, but behind the camera.
Yeah, because we want to reward those who are there on time.
Yeah, okay,
Just we are raise our hand.
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna start. We're gonna start.
okay. So inshallah, let's just begin because a lot of time has been taken already as it is. So if you look at your screen, you'll see that I'm going to give you a little bit of explanation about the strategies that I used while teaching that lesson to you all earlier. That lesson about Surah Hujurat. So you'll see that here I try to ensure the objective of the lesson is worded in a way that is relevant to the students, okay? So if you notice, I did have a question or, where I asked, how is the Quran still relevant to our lives, our modern lives? Okay, so this is something that many times youth always ask that question. Okay, Quran and Hadith, oh, that's good, but how is that relevant to my life? Okay, so many times they don't see the Quran as being something that's relevant to them today. So you have to remember that when you're teaching youth, always keep that in the back of your mind, okay? And look for lessons and information that will be of interest to them, okay? So for example, with the lesson that I just taught, they're gonna know clearly what backbiting is, okay? So you highlight that because they know backbiting. They know bullying when one person is mocking and making fun of another person, okay? So you would allow the students to give examples of things that have happened to them and then point out to them. You see, Allah is our creator. He knows us so well, okay? That he is telling us about the things that happen in our everyday life, okay? That happen to us all the time. And not only does he tell us about it, he gives us solutions, okay? So if you find a way to implement these solutions, you might be able to resolve some of these issues that you're having, okay? That fight you had with your friend last week, that issue that happened at lunchtime where people were making fun of each other, these things could actually be resolved using the Quran, okay? So next, present the Quran in a captivating way, okay? With the meaning displayed. Here, I heard from many of the teachers, many of you are teaching Arabic speaking, you're Arabic speaking and you're teaching Arabic speaking students, but that may not always be the case, okay? And we are in Canada now, so we have to be sensitive to that. So we have to remember that try to, as much as possible, when you're playing the Quran, you have the Arabic, you have the English, okay? Or if you're, for example, in Quebec or in a place where people speak French, then you would have the Arabic and French, okay? So that they can pick up the meaning, because the Quran cannot be relevant to people if they don't understand, right? Any of the information that they're being given. So you have to make sure that you try your best to make it accessible, okay? That's the word, accessible. What does accessible mean? Means that everyone can access, everyone can be a part of learning, okay? So, also, just if you notice the video that I chose to display the Quran, I chose to use a video that I feel is a little bit more captivating. And what I usually do with my students is to turn off the lights in the room, okay? And then, we just have the big screen, and I'm trying my best to make sure that my students have an experience, okay? So remember, as anyone can give a lesson, but the good teachers provide an experience, okay? So what's the difference between the two things? One is that the students have a feeling. They leave with a feeling, and feelings is something that we always remember, okay? This is just us as human beings, all of us. If someone made us feel a certain way, we remember it. We remember it much more than we would remember a lesson, okay? So we have to keep that in mind when we're teaching our students. Look for ways to create an experience, to make them feel something, okay? And so they connect with it. So that's why I used that particular, reciter, and with that particular video where we have some images even with the words, okay? So ask questions that they are asking themselves and their peers, okay? So think about the type of questions that students would be asking. We had an example here today when we were doing this class. One of the sisters shared with us, questions that someone was asking her daughter, and then for her daughter to find the answer to those questions, okay? So I'm just gonna run through this quickly, by the way, and then I will ask you guys your questions just because of the time sensitivity right now, okay? So include group activities whenever possible. Teenagers, young adults really enjoy working with their friends, okay? But be prepared to manage the groups to ensure everyone is included. So it's wonderful to do the group activity, but we have to remember as a teacher that some students might get left out. People may not pick certain students. So we have to think of ways, once we have experienced our class, right? 2-3 times you say group work and you see all the particular certain students run to their friends and they leave 2 students out every time, okay? You mention it to them, you say to them, listen, our group activities in this classroom have to include everyone and they have to make everyone feel like they're a part, okay, of this class. You give them a reminder. Second time, same thing happens again. Third time you say, okay, you know what? We're gonna try something new today. We're going to put everyone's name in a hat. We're going to put everyone's name in a box and we're gonna pull out the names and we're gonna say, this is group 1, group 2, group 3, okay? Or we're gonna go across, I'm gonna go across the classroom and do 1, 2, 3. And whoever is 3, everybody go together. Whoever is 2, everyone go together. Whoever is 1, go together, okay? So the reason that I'm saying this is that you give the students a chance, you give them a chance, you give them the power to make the decision about who they want to be with. When you see that they are not working to include everyone, then you take the power. But don't take the power from the beginning and force something on the students. Try to give them a chance and say, inshallah, they will be kind and they will include everybody. And some classes I've had, never a problem. Other classes, always a problem, okay? So it all depends on your students, okay? So activity should be hands-on, but make sure it is challenging, okay? So we know that if you're teaching students in grade 4, you can, you know, easily give them a coloring page and say, you know, for, students who are like maybe grade 1 and 2, you can give them a coloring page. You can say, okay, color this in because that's age appropriate for them. You're not gonna give coloring pages or these types of activities to somebody who is in grade 6, right? Grade 7, they're not gonna accept it. And so some of the times teachers are having a problem with getting students to do activities and they're not understanding. It's not the students just chose, they don't want to do the activity, is because the activity is considered to be childish, right? So if they think something is childish, they will refuse. They will refuse it. Oh, I did that in grade 2. Why are you coming to me with this? I did that in grade 4, right? So we have to try to think of new things that are challenging for them, okay? And finally, the project should allow them to display their talent, okay? So what do I mean by that? For example, when you sisters were working together, I'm sure you noticed in your group that certain people were more artistic, could draw better, okay? Certain people had a better idea of how to create the image. So, and other people were better at coming up with why that lesson was important, right? From that surah. So each person has something to contribute to the group and then the group shines together, okay? So this is why sometimes it's better to do group work versus having the person figure it out on their own, okay? Because it's often harder to figure things out on your own. Of course, it depends on the individual. I've had students in my class who every time it's a group project, they object, they object, they object. They say, please, please, please let me do my work by myself. I don't want to work with this person. I don't want to work with that person, okay? And so then you have to find a way to navigate that because unfortunately, especially at the high school level, middle school level, group work is a part of what they're graded. They're graded based on cooperation, their ability to work with others and to collaborate with other people, okay? So because they're graded on it, we have to make them do it. We don't have to make them do it many times, but they have to do it enough times that we can give them a grade, a mark, okay? So at this point, does anyone have any questions? Anyone have any questions about what I've said or want some clarification or some examples? Okay, I see no one's asking. Okay, so inshallah, we will move on to the next thing. And this is just the general topic of teaching Islam to our youth.
That's
Okay.
not asking a question.
Oh, someone's
Thank-
asking. Okay, go ahead.
She's saying you suggest that teachers lead the grouping. Is that what you suggested?
No, I said give the students a chance, right? Give the students the power, let them choose initially, and then based on their behavior, right? When they're given that power, you will then decide if they can keep the power or you have to take it from them and do it yourself. Okay? So initially you're giving them the power. And then if they work well, mashallah, you leave them with the power. They can do it every time there's a group assignment. If not, then you as the teacher lead and take over. Okay. I hope that answers your question. So now moving on to teaching youth, I put teaching youth a balancing act because it is very challenging teaching youth. Okay. Children, when we're teaching children, we're dealing with them, their attention spans, we're dealing with them running around, making noise, maybe being easily distracted in class and not kind of focusing on the lesson. And we're sometimes dealing with the fact that they just don't have the skills or the background knowledge or experience that we can draw on because they're that young. Okay. But when you're teaching youth, it's the opposite situation. Okay. And how is it opposite? They often have had experiences and often bad experiences, okay, with anything to do with Islam or with the mosque or with, other weekend classes they went to or another weekend teacher they had, okay? So we have to remember, we have to keep that in mind. Sometimes our students are not reacting to us. They're reacting to the situation. They're reacting to the fact that, oh, I'm being forced by my parents to come and learn Islam and sit here on the Saturday that I could be playing video games or doing, whatever other things, social media, whatever other things interest them, okay? So as teachers, we have to try to pull ourselves out of the equation and not get too personal. Like we see the child, he's being rude to us. Oh, okay, this kid is being rude. We need to do something about him. It's personal to me. Sometimes it has nothing to do with us, okay? And sometimes as you are teaching youth, you begin to learn this, okay? So here are some common issues when teaching Muslim youth. Most Muslim youth have learned secular and atheist ideologies, okay? What do we mean by secular and atheist? Two, kind of big words. We mean that they have been taught either that Allah does not exist, a'udhu billah, or they've been taught that religion doesn't have anything to do with the rest of your life, okay? So they're two separate things. So because of that, we often have a hard time, and this happens in public school, okay? Because mostly in public school, I'm a person raised in Canada, I went to public school, my teachers taught me this, okay? The books we read taught me this. Pretty much it was normalized to me, the idea of questioning whether God exists and these types of things. So we have to remember that many times our youth are getting this information from outside, okay? So youth exploring lifestyles that contradict Islam, okay? So as we know right now in this country, there are many different types of lifestyles that may not go in line with, what we believe as Muslims, but we as teachers have to be prepared and ready to talk to our students about these things and to help guide them, okay, to the right way, not judge them, but guide them, okay? So next is increase in alcohol and drug use. So unfortunately, the alcohol and drug use is not only outside of our community, it's inside of our community, okay? Our Muslim youth, our Muslim children are involved in drinking sometimes, are involved in taking different types of drugs. And so sometimes we have to be aware that a student can be talking to us or doing something and they're really under the influence of something, okay? And if it's not that they're actually taking it, it's that they're very much aware of this option, okay? That they could be doing it and it's all around them and people are offering it to them, okay? Because once again, this is a part of what's happening in the public schools. And I'm going to stop a little break. I know we're thing for time here, and just tell you a story of one of the high schools that I was teaching at, where we had a boy who was in fact selling drugs to the other Muslim students in that school. Okay. And the principal had to expel him from the school because he actually came to the Islamic school and was going around and convincing some of the other students to take drugs. And then he wanted to be a dealer because he was going to collect the money from this. Okay. He was giving it to the other students and trying to get them to take it. Alhamdulillah, one of the students came and told the principal this is what was going on, and then he was able to do something about it. Okay, so this is just to give you an example. That is a fully Islamic school, and this type of activity was going on. Okay, so developing negative perceptions about Quran and Hadith. Okay, I mentioned this before, the idea that the Quran and Hadith are outdated. Okay, they're not relevant to us today. That it was, you know, Prophet Muhammad lived, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, lived a long, long time ago. What does that have to do with today? Okay, so we're the ones, Islamic school teachers, you know, Arabic teachers, to make that connection and to show them that what Allah revealed is very much relevant today, because we are still human beings. There were human beings back then, there's human beings today, we're created and we're pretty much the same. Okay, so that's something that we have to make sure that we let our students understand. Anyone have a question at this point? No, nobody. Okay, everyone's tired today. Okay, and this I will go through. Is someone asking a question? I see the camera moving in the classroom. Anyone?
Yes, just I want to tell you something. It's about this age, like youth people, like junior high and high school. They are, for my opinion, we want to focus in our life. Like it's sometimes when we say like memorizing Quran, for me, if he memorizing or he understands 2, 3, 4 surah, but he wants how to trade in his life as Muslim guy, as he can change the picture, what the people around us taking the bad picture for Muslim person, because this is also, they are in the school, when they say, oh, Muslim, that means Allahu Akbar, he will be still blowing the school. That's what they are taking. But we need to take new picture. We need this youth to understand what is from the seerah, from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or how is the Sahaba, how's their life. They're going smooth and nicely, and they're giving us, till now we are still teaching the Sahaba story, because they are true. Their life is correct. Not sometimes the youth now, they are seeing people, they are coming to the mosque praying, okay, but one day they see them, they're drinking alcohol. They are confusing how he is a Muslim and he go pray to the mosque and he's drinking the same time. We need to explain these things. We need somebody or some program or some books or something to teach this age of the kids. We have, it's not adat to taqalid. We don't want to be a culture. No, we want something from Sunnah and Kitab Allah. This is very important age to be, because one day we will not be in this place. These people, these young people, they will teach this after that the other kids, okay? We need to building them as a good Muslim. Because when sometimes say to them, just alif ba ta ta Arabi or aftah al-bab, aghlq al-bab, this is not important for them, really. Excuse me, but it's really, I'm a mom for teenager, and I know I am teaching also in public school. I have some kids is Muslim there in my public school, and I am in the community. I see that's wrong. You know, some people, some girls doing something, hiding in their family. No, how to build relationship with your mom, how you build relationship with your dad, how they are how to be community together, how to make a sadaqah, or like now in cold place, you see homeless, how we do something community together to make sadaqah together. I mean, many things we can, the idea, it's effect for these people, for youth and teenager, better than, for me, in my opinion, better than sit down in the class. أعطيني الجملة الفعلية، أعطيني الجملة الاسمية، أعطيني This is not, it's funny sometimes, but it's really, it's very important, because these kids, they are not waiting for that things.
Yeah, sister, I feel exactly what you're saying. Many times I was in Islamic schools and I saw that they really focus on just giving the students the knowledge, right? Just give them the knowledge, and if they understand, they understand. If they don't understand, they don't understand. Just make them memorize things, right? So we have to, like you're saying, we have to move away from this. We have to move away from this. Yeah, we do. Jazakallah, sister.
And also I have to mention something is very important. Our kids, unfortunately, they don't have that connection with their Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They don't have that love. You know, when you have that love for Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he is the one that Allah created to save all the mankind from Nar Jahannam. So we have to build this one, to miss the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and to love him, love him the most, more than our father, more than our mother, more than ourselves, because he is the one who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to save the mankind and to save you know, it's something you have to feel it, actually. I don't know how to plant this one in our youth hearts.
We'll talk about it. Let's discuss this topic right after the
okay. I was just going to say to her, to connect to what I had said earlier. This is why, sisters, we have to make sure that when we're teaching a class, it's an experience, right? You see, this is the fundamental thing. You have to make sure that when your students come to your class, they feel something. Understand? Not just they walk away, okay, read the surah fast, okay? And okay, I memorized this. You have to make sure that when you're teaching them, when you're giving them this information about the Quran, about the Prophet, you make it so real to them, right? So that they feel the emotion of what was happening at that time, okay? Otherwise, you know, like there's a distance. It's information, and then there's me. And this information is boring. This is what you say about everything, okay? It's boring information. What am I gonna do with this information? So if you find a way to connect to their feelings, look at what they are going through today. Like, for example, many of our students are going through depression because of the pandemic. They couldn't see their friends. They couldn't see, you know, some of their relatives. So here we are, make the connection. Things that happened in the Prophet's life, for example, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that blocked him from his friends, blocked him from his family, right? He was exiled. He had to do hijrah, all these things, and think about, relate it now to their feeling of being isolated, of no one, you know, they have no one to talk to. They have no one to share things with. These are the type of things that we need to do so that our youth understand that Islam is relevant. It's gonna help them. You see? Inshallah, that answers your question. Okay, so this I'm just going to run through very quickly because those questions and those comments were really great, mashallah. So teacher training, schools should provide training about what to say, what not to say, and how to handle common issues, okay? So we know in our schools, there are many different types of issues that come up. So the teachers need to be trained to deal with those issues, okay? Identify issues that are sensitive and controversial. What does controversial means? Means issues that cause people to get angry and upset quickly, okay? And if you need to say something, first think about it. Talk to an administration, talk to a member of the administration of the school before you approach children or parents, okay, about certain topics. We have to be aware of this. So learn how to address issues from psychological perspective, which will help you to empathize with your students, okay? So as I mentioned before, we know a lot of what our students are going through right now with the pandemic. So as a teacher, the main way we're gonna reach them is if we empathize. What does empathize mean? We put ourselves in their shoes. We think about how it must feel for them, and then we plan our lessons and we treat them in our class according to that, okay? So finally, we have to, the sister mentioned fostering love of our Prophet, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but before that, we have to foster love of Allah, okay? If the youth do not love Allah, they're not going to obey Allah, okay? And if they think that Islamic school or the Muslims that they meet represent what Allah is like, and everyone's mean and rude and harsh and judgmental, then they're going to assume that that's what Islam is. And it translates back to them thinking that that is what Allah is, okay? So we have to be aware of that. Okay, so, okay. To be honest, I don't know if I have to go through all of this. I'll just pick the important ones. Have a member of the administration or teaching team stay up to date on current issues that matter to the students. Okay, so this one is a little bit tricky, but I think when you're teaching youth, you need to know what they're going through, what's happening for them. Okay, you need to know the things they like, the things they dislike, what's trending. Okay, that's the word they would use. Okay, the word they would use is what's trending. In other words, what's popular, what is important to them at that time. Okay, so sometimes it's not topics that we as teachers or adults sometimes want to be involved in, because sometimes it has to do with some singer, it has to do with some actress, it has to do with some other things that sometimes other people judge, are quick to judge and say, oh, this is haram, we shouldn't, why are we talking about this? But the reality is, if we keep telling the youth that everything that they want to talk about is haram, they are never going to come and talk to us about things so that we can show them the Islamic way to resolve it. Okay? There's not going to be any Islamic way to resolve anything if they don't come to us and talk about it. Okay? Inshallah. So I think that was the main one there. And then giving, have activities that are not all directly related to Islamic studies. Okay, so even if you're Islamic school, even a weekend school, make sure that you try to have activities like sports, art, different types of exhibits, even have, say for example, you're teaching Islam, science in Islam, have a science fair, okay? Don't assume that only because, science fair should be for science class in the regular school, okay? You can have a science fair about the different facts about science that are in the Quran. So there's different things that we can do so that our students get an opportunity to see Islam in a holistic way, not just, a lesson, and it's in the classroom, and then we walk away and we come back next week and then we get a new lesson. But, really, it doesn't really matter to us. Okay, so those are the basic points I wanted to make there. And then the three main issues of concern, and this is just from me at times sitting on committees with parents, and sometimes as a parent, and I was a teacher in an Islamic school, I got to see both sides of the spectrum, okay? And also, in general, complaints that you hear from students, that you hear from parents whose kids go to Islamic school. So this is why I highlighted these main issues. So student services planning, and the reality is that the province of Manitoba has dealt with all of these issues, expects teachers and administration to deal with these issues and to make sure that they're dealt with appropriately, okay? So that students have the optimal, meaning the best environment to learn, okay? So schools in Manitoba are required to engage in a process of planning in education and reporting progress annually. It is important to involve the community parents, students in the planning process, okay? So when our schools are making plans about what's gonna happen this year, what is our, curriculum gonna look like? What is our year going to look like? They would include the parents, they would include students, and they would plan in advance, okay? Many times, this is a big issue. I've worked at Islamic schools where I come to the school the first day, September 4th, school is starting, and then they're handing me the books, the textbooks, and they're saying, okay, you're teaching grade 7 this year. Last year I was teaching grade 8 or 9, and this year now I'm teaching grade 7. Now I have to switch my whole mindset to this new curriculum, to this new set of students that I have to teach. And guess when I'm doing it? At the beginning of the year, when I could have done this a month before, right? I could have been doing my research and preparing and doing everything, looking at the curriculum before. So this puts teachers at a disadvantage, okay? And this is mainly to the administration. It puts teachers at a disadvantage because now we are left with some last minute preparations and we're running around, we don't know what to do, okay? And we don't have the time to do it. So inshallah, if we can change this about Islamic schools, whether it's weekend or full-time, it's gonna create a much better environment where we seem very organized and on top of things, okay? Next is student discipline. All school division policies on discipline must be consistent with the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, okay? And the Human Rights Code. So in other words, what does that mean? It means that we have to remember that in our Charter of Rights, we cannot humiliate people, we cannot abuse people physically, mentally, any of these other kinds of ways. We have to ensure that we are not being prejudiced against a particular group of people. I have seen this several times when I'm teaching in Islamic school, where people have had issues with a particular group of people, way back in their own country before they came here, and they come here and they're continuing it. Right? And they're continuing this prejudice or bias towards this particular group of people. And they keep repeating things and saying things and treating people in a way that shows their prejudice or their bias. Okay. And here in Canada, there's no space for this. Okay. We all have to accept each other and, and understand that every single human being is important, right? And is valued. Finally, assessment. Manitoba provincial policy outlines the importance of understanding the different purposes for assessment, okay? So you all saw the rubric that I showed you earlier. That's one example of assessment. Inshallah, in the future, if we have more time, we can talk more specifically about the different types of assessment, okay? Because basically for the ministries today, there are basically 3 different types of assessment: for learning, of learning, and as learning, okay? So these 3 basic ways of assessing students is what is used now. And so some assessment means that it's test, it's recorded. Other assessment is not recorded, okay? There is no mark giving for that assessment, but it helps us as teachers to understand if we're doing our job correctly, okay? So there's these 3 different types of assessments, okay? So, okay, I won't go over this. And that was the rubric that I showed you earlier. And then we have a case study. Okay, so with this case study, we're gonna have a discussion, inshallah, sister. So I want everyone to participate and give suggestions. We were supposed to go into groups, but we don't have the time for the groups. So we are going to, we are simply going to go through this case study, and each of you is free to raise your hand and make a suggestion, inshallah, okay? So I'm gonna read the case study quickly so that everyone can understand what it's about. So Sister Aisha has been teaching her grade 7 class for 4 months. Most of the students in her class are the same culture as her. They often speak to each other in their language, and at times they ask her questions in their language. Sometimes she overhears them saying mean and insulting things in their language about other classmates who can't understand. These students often have parties, and the few students who are not the same culture are not invited. A parent has come forward and complained that their child does not want to come to school because they feel left out. Okay, so here's the question. What do you think Sister Aisha should do about the situation? Discuss all the possible solutions. Okay, well, this was the part was supposed to be for the group. So you guys will discuss here with everyone, okay? So what do you think Sister Aisha should do about this situation? I want you to give me some suggestions as to what can be done to solve this type of problem, because I'm sure some of you have experienced this in your classrooms, okay? Inshallah, who wants to go first? Okay, go ahead, sister.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I think as Sister Aisha is a teacher, she should respect different language in her class. So because that will make a gap between the student. If she's just grouping her student who speak same language as her, that will, as the parent complain, they will put the others behind. Even in as you described earlier, if there is any activity, if there is any project, they will be like, you know, they will not even participate with a group who always speaking the same language. So she should, in the beginning, advise the student, even they are easier for them to speak their language to each other, to speak the language, I think, which is English. So she put mandatory to be in a class, respect other students and speak the English language, and try to. This is my point, because when you said we have to give them the power to choose the group, usually, especially the teenager, they like to be always grouping each other based on their relationship. So, oh, I want to go with this and this and this, whoever always being together, even in a recess time, outside. So try to build different relationship, try to give a trust to other students who lacking knowledge or giving like idea, or he's not in a level that match the other student, to engage to that group. So in that way, I think she can force in a way that student who speak in her language not to speak their language, by putting them in a group who doesn't know that language. You know, I think this is a way gradually she will see the benefit and make everyone satisfied.
Yeah, Jazakallah, sister. Very good suggestion.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a suggestion?
Yes, I'd like to share.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello. For the suggestion about this situation happening in class, she should talk to them in the open. Guys, what do you think? If I speak another language, a third language, for example, that's different from that all of you know, would you feel better? This is unfair. So to be fair, we need to lay ground that we use only one language that is equally comprehensive to all the students. To be fair, because it's unfair, maybe you are saying something nice and they did it in your own language and they think you are mistreating them. So we have to lay a ground rule. No other language is spoken other than being comprehensive to everybody. And to tell them in just a positive way that this is not the best choice. This doesn't comply with Islam, to leave people behind. We are a group, we stay in a group. And instead, she maybe can encourage them to teach the other kids the language. Because, you know, guys, I feel you comfortable using Arabic, for example. So what do you think? You can teach your other friends a couple of words in your own language. So that instead of 2 speaking Arabic, we will have 4, and then we have 5, we will have 8. So we all share the same language, but being like, she has to do that for them. I think this is good strategy.
Okay, Jazakallah, sister. Anyone else have a solution? Has anyone else raised their hand? No, I don't think so. Okay, does anyone want to maybe share a story of something that has, similar that has happened to them? So if you don't have a solution, maybe you can share a story with us. And then we can kind of work through to see, what could have been done differently. Anyone? Okay, go ahead.
I might have something to share about that because in our Arabic school, we speak both Arabic, but the formal Arabic and English as well. But sometimes kids can use their slang languages. It's not quite comprehensive to non-Arabs. So they can go, they once called one of my students, he's my favorite one, they called him a name in Arabic, and it's not the best name to be called of. So what did I do? I tell him, he tells me, it's okay, I'm not angry, I'm not upset. I tell him, no, I know this word, the meaning is not the best meaning, and we couldn't let it go. So I have a conversation with that student who bullied him, and he called him a name, and I tell him, what do you think? So your friend here knows another language that you don't understand. What do you think if the tables were turned around and he called you a name that you don't like? Would you accept that? He tells me, no, I'll feel sorry. So it isn't the best choice to make your friends feel sorry. So I always stress the fact about this. They don't know the Arabic. They have other languages too. If they use them without your knowledge, it will be unfair to you guys.
How about making them apologize in front of the classroom to that person and then befriending them again?
Yes, because they were in different classes. So like I had because this situation is one of the most it has happened a couple of years back, but it always grieves me a lot. Because this guy, I always encourage, always the non-speakers are my top priority. I'm sorry to say that, because they are doing great job. They are struggling to learn a new language, the language of Quran. So they have to have our full support. We have to encourage them, not let them shy away from joining. On the contrary, they are even, inshallah, by God, they'll be rewarded even more because they are struggling to do that.
Okay, Jazakallah, sister. So I'm not seeing, is anyone else prepared to share with us, or should I just give you all some suggestions at this point?
I think suggestions would be good.
Yeah, because we do have to close. We're past the time. So there's a couple of factors in this scenario that we really have to pay attention to. Okay, so the whole concept of the fact that a teacher speaks the same language as a particular number of students in her class does not necessarily mean that at no point can she explain something to that student, but in their language, because maybe that student is really having a difficulty or a challenge with the English language. However, the point is for the teacher not to do it in front of the class, okay? And in front of everyone else. And what do I mean by this? I mean, because it creates this sense of favoritism, right? That this teacher favors the student. I have seen it many times in the years that I've been teaching that students have come and complained to me about another teacher, right? And said to me that this teacher keeps every single time that the people who are her culture raise their hand or start talking to her, she will respond in her language, and then she will sometimes go into a whole discussion with this student and forget about the rest of us in the class, okay? So in order to avoid that, the best thing is not to create this sense where the students start to believe that this student has special treatment, right? This student or these select students, right, have special treatment because they are the same culture as the teacher. Okay, so you have to ensure, for example, you need to explain something to the student, take them at recess, ask them to stay after school, 10 minutes, whatever, let their parents know, and then talk to them in your language and explain things to them. But don't do it when you're in the middle of the lesson, you're teaching, and then suddenly now the whole, however many students it is, even if it's a small number of students, right? It's still a problem that they're excluded. And then the other students are having this whole discussion right? And then, for example, I will tell you what it translates into. There's been situations where some students are getting high marks and the rest of the kids in the class are saying, this person doesn't deserve those marks. He's only getting those marks because he speaks to the teacher in his language, and they share, and maybe that teacher knows his mom, okay? And so because they know each other, they're giving him the high mark. So now you've created a situation where that student's, maybe Allah knows best, their own hard work is now being, you know, looked at by the other students as saying, nope, she's giving him higher marks. He doesn't deserve, but she's giving it to him. So you see, you've created a whole problem. And what does that problem lead back to? You as a teacher are not seen as being fair. And once students think you're not fair, they don't listen to you. Okay, they don't listen to anything you have to say. This is what ends up happening. So sometimes teachers are doing things subconsciously, not realizing that they're creating an image of themselves. Because of course, the students are judging you. They are. This is our human nature, okay? So be careful of this type of thing. Now, the next thing is in regards to, for example, the fact that they're excluding certain students from their parties or activities that they have, which is outside of school, okay? So as a teacher, it's very difficult for us to manage something that happens outside of the classroom, right? It's not really, you know, necessarily our duty to be like, no, 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 you have to invite them to the party, right? But we in the classroom, obviously, especially if you're teaching Islamic studies, can paint a scenario, create a picture to those students who are doing this, that think about it. You know, next week, if I was gonna have a party at my house and I said, I'm only gonna bring the students who have A's. I don't want any students, no students who are B, no students who are C, no students who are D can come to my house. I only want the students who are the A+ students, right? Because I only like the people who are smart, right? So paint pictures to them that don't necessarily directly relate to the culture, for example, but then you tie it back. So you show them. So if I said this, would this be fair? Do you think this would be fair? That I'm only inviting the students who have A's? And then they'll discuss, no, what about this? What about, and they'll talk about it with them. And then just say, you know, and this is why when we're having a party at our house, we have to be aware, right? If we want to have a party and we want to include our class, then we should try our best to include everyone, okay? Because as Muslims, if we hurt someone's feelings, you know, whether we did it on purpose or we didn't do it on purpose, we could be accountable. We could be accountable for this, okay? So please make sure that if you're having parties, you either invite everyone, or if you choose, say your parents say, no, you can only, you know, invite 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then you're going to give them those party invitations. You're going to tell them about the party outside of the class, please, right? Not during my class time. Don't come here and give out party invitations and do so on and so forth, because I can't be a part of anything that's making somebody feel bad, okay? So these little types of things, you basically let the student know right there that they have to find a way to do things in a better way, okay? And then the last part, let's see. The issue now with the parent, if the parent is coming forward and complaining, make sure that when you deal with the parent, you don't dismiss the parent, okay? Now, this is another issue. Many times in our schools, parents come forward and complain about things, and the administration, the teachers say, oh, you know, this parent, always making a problem, always coming here with something and complaining about something or the other, okay? We have to ensure, right, as Muslims, that there is not some type of oppression taking place in our class, okay? There is not some type of, you know, something that is really harming somebody else, and we are choosing to say, sweep it under the carpet. Oh, I don't think it's important. You know, it doesn't relate to my lesson I need to teach. This thing is just a problem for me, okay? So we have to remember that we legitimize. If a parent comes to us and says something, we sit, we think, we process, and we don't, as teachers, we are professionals, right? As a teacher, you are a professional. So don't take it personally, Don't start saying, you know, even if the parent complains and said, well, you were talking to them in your language and you say, you know what, sister, brother, whoever it is, I'm gonna try my best to resolve this issue. Okay, whatever it is, I'm gonna try my best to resolve this issue. Don't say to the parent, no, whatever, it's not important. Why are you coming here with this nonsense? Okay, so be sure and make sure that you show that professionalism. Okay, and being professional means you stay neutral even when people are saying something that may talk about how you are teaching. Okay, and you have to reflect and remember, as Islamic school teachers, as Muslims, as human beings who are Muslims, at the end of the day, we are accountable to Allah. Okay, and these children are amana to us. So if that is the case, we have to work this way. We have to operate in that reality. Okay, inshallah. So I think this is pretty much the end of my, this is the end of my presentation. If anyone has any very quick questions, because we have gone over time, and thank you for being so patient with us. You know, this, because we had to wait in the beginning for everyone to come in. So we are a bit late, inshallah. So any last minute questions, you can go ahead.
I've also posted something in the chat for the evaluation form. There's a link there. Once you have filled it out and I have your correct spellings as well, and you have filled out your evaluation of each trainer, of all the trainings, we will be sending out your certificates to Sister Manar and Sister Tasneem, inshallah, and they will dispatch it to you individually. So if there's no other questions. All right, so I did look at your comment that we couldn't address sister who's sitting with Sister Hasna. And inshallah, we need to have a proper training on how we can address these issues with our youth. We do often do them at Sound Vision Canada. Inshallah, we will also do that. One of the other things that I'm working on with Sister Zubaydah, Malika, all the other trainers, is to have a longer training that will help us with all the different things that came up, because 2 days is usually not enough. There's so many other things that we need to talk about and discuss and try to iron out whatever problems that we feel that we have in our Islamic schools, inshallah. With that, I want to let you know that you have the evaluation form, but you also have our email address. Please go to soundvisioncanada.org and sign up for the newsletter so you know future trainings when they're coming up. And inshallah, good luck to all of you with your trainings, with your teaching, with your school, inshallah. I'm sure it'll make a difference. If you have any questions, let us know. And with that, have a great week.
We will be waiting.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We are appreciated for that. Thank you.
Okay.
Sister Malika. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Take care.